Yeah, so for the people who are listening, if we're still online, we are? Okay, good. And so here's what's happening. Stage one is more than just budgeting. Stage one is more than just knowing where your money's going. Stage one is making sure that, number one, you have goals and they're specific measurable goals. So what are your goals? And if you, some ideas what your goals are right now, in the icebreaker, I'm gonna ask you some questions, but what is your goal? Is it to get an emergency fund? Is it to get out of debt? Is it to purchase a home? Is it saving for retirement? And if you look at saving for retirement, nationwide, we're not saving enough for retirement. And so it's a rarity that we are actually saving enough money because we have so many other things trying to vie us or take our money away. But to your point, Al, stage one is that you've identified your goals and you are saving the correct amount of money to achieve them. And sometimes, we can't do that. Like, we can't save the amount of money that's going to get us an emergency fund within 3 years. But we start with something. And so we know what our targeted saving goal is. Stage one is getting to that point. Every time you get a raise, put a little bit more money aside. You get out of debt, take the money that you were paying on that debt and put it towards your goal. So unless you're saving your targeted savings goal for all of your goals, you're still in stage one, right? And so I find that there's a lot of people in that stage one, and there's a lot of people who are not getting out of it. And they may work 20, 30, 40 years, and they're still in stage one because they haven't saved enough, and they haven't put a lot of thought into that. So that's stage one. So stage two is you are actually saving your targeted savings goal. You're creating a portfolio, and let's just say hypothetically your portfolio is at $200,000. So stage two is when the return on your portfolio matches what your targeted savings goal is. So hypothetically, you're making $100,000, you've identified your goal, saving 10% of that a year is your targeted savings goal. So you're saving $10,000 of your $100,000 every year. In your portfolio, your return that's being reinvested is actually, let's say 5% of that is $10,000. So now you're in the first stage of stage two, which means that your actual return on your investments match your actual savings goal. So you're like doubling the amount of money that you're investing because or saving. You're reinvesting your 10% or your 5%, which is your $10,000 from your portfolio. Then you're also saving 10% of your income. Make sense? So that's stage one of stage two. So what's the other stages of stage two? Is that return continues to grow. Now you're doubling the amount of money that you were saving. Now you're tripling it. You're 4 times it, and that's the accumulation stage. You're going to be in that stage for a very long time, possibly, right? Especially if you just have one source of income and you're living within your means. It's going to take some time to increase your portfolio, but you're learning some things about investments there. You're learning about investments in phase one as well, but what's more important in phase one is that you're living within your means and you're spending less money and you're saving more money to reach your goal. What's important in phase two is that you're understanding investments because you have a big nest egg now. You want to understand diversification, your risk and return models, and we'll talk about that because you have a lot more to lose now. You got a big principal and you want to make sure that you're growing in stage two. Now here's stage three. Stage three is when your return from your portfolio matches your current living expenses plus inflation. So that's like the first stage of financial independence. So we all want to get there, right? We want to get to the point to where our income is not coming from our effort and our work, but it's coming from our money making money for us, right? So stage three is we really want to preserve our wealth because our wealth now is creating the income for us that can sustain us, is meeting our living expenses, plus inflation. Now, here's where real freedom is. How about you have enough of a return from your investments to where not only is it meeting your living expenses and inflation, but you can increase your lifestyle. You can ball out a little bit, right? You can go on trips and all that other stuff, right? Now you really have what's called freedom. That's stage four. Stage four is that you definitely are working by choice, just because you love it, not because you have to. That's stage four, and even a smaller percentage of people reach that. Stage five is where you have more money than you can ever spend in your lifetime. And so as a financial advisor, we work with everyone. Most financial advisors want to work with the stage 5 and stage 4 people, or even stage 3 at the lowest. But if you're beginning in the industry, everybody needs us, right? And so if a new financial advisor is taking anybody that breathes that can save. So back to the comment that my vice president told me, if they're not saving, Clifton, you can't help them. That doesn't sit well with me because everybody has the ability to change. So let me ask you this, right? So money is like oxygen. Would you agree with me? So if money is like oxygen, then I want to know, where are you guys in that? I want you to write this down. I want you to write down your number if 5 is able to breathe comfortably, right? 3 is like, kind of struggling a little bit. I don't have enough to like meet all my bills. Like I might have to juggle some things. That's a 3. And 8 is like, I'm not feeling any kind of, I got an abundance of oxygen. I want you to take the time now and write that down. If you're online watching, I want you to also write down your number. So I got this thing going, and mine's not working. Is yours working, Michelle?
I logged out. I mean, I turned it off.
So did you create a new link?
Did not. YouTube did.
Okay. All right. Well, I'm not even gonna worry about that. I was trying to follow it and look at comments.
Are your followers on here? They're just posting. You posted it?
Yeah, I did.
Yeah, so they can follow the new link.
Okay. Cool.
In the middle, it just did not. It switched over here on its own.
All right. So the second thing I want you to do, and we're gonna go around in the room, is I want you to tell me what is the goal that you want to have accomplished in a year from now. It's working? Okay. Good. So in a year from now, where do you want to be? And we'll start with you, Al. And I'll repeat it because we don't have a mic to share for everybody.
Okay, it's funny you mentioned this because I was just doing a kind of a revamp of my financial situation in the last couple of weeks. So my portfolio is at the point to where I have investment income coming in. So I need to do 1 year from now, I need to have the investment income, I would say, covering some of my basic expenses.
Okay. So you're in stage.
I have a mortgage.
Got you.
If I can get the investment income to cover my monthly mortgage, that's step 1 for me.
Okay. So you're in stage 2,
Actually, yes.
and you want to continue to accumulate.
Yes.
And make sure your returns are getting grower to at some point it can cover all of your living expenses. All right, I got you, bro. I got you. Okay, you don't have to share if you don't want to, but who else wants to share where they want to be a year from now? Anybody else? I want to take 2 more at least.
For me, like this year, I am working on being debt free. I unfortunately got caught up in spending too much on my credit card. So I had already informed my family and friends I'm not going to be going out and doing this and that, traveling. I love to travel. Last year I took about 4 trips. So yeah, it's like I'm gonna be focused on getting debt free.
Okay, getting debt free, getting that monkey off your back, I got you. And you're going to start making different decisions. You're going to start saying no to certain things, and you already started that, so continue. Great. Michelle, did you raise your hand?
Where do I want to be next year? Is that the question?
Yeah, so a year from now, what is your biggest win do you want to celebrate 12 months from now?
I'd like to be at 4.
Where?
At number stage 4.
Number 4. Okay, got it. So you want to be at stage 4, meaning that you got not just enough money to meet your living expenses, you got enough money to increase your lifestyle. All right, cool, got it. So here's the thing, I want you to visualize that. Whatever it is possible. And I'm going to tell you that again because here's where I'm coming from with this Empower series. We've been doing this for 15 years, and when I look back to think what my why is, which is important, you all need to identify what your why is. So I hope that you're writing down where you want to be a year from now. If you're online, you've heard this point and you're writing down where you want to be 12 months from now. But I want to share with you a story about why it is possible. You cannot tell me that it's not possible for you to be where you want to be 12 months from now. I want to share with you a little bit about my family. So I told you I have a brother and sister. In the top left-hand corner here, you see my brother and my sister, Anita, who's still in Los Angeles. My brother, unfortunately, has passed away due to COVID, but this picture was taken in 1994, and he was in the hospital because we found him in the hospital after he was homeless and hooked on crack for 6 years. And so that's a whole nother story from a backdrop perspective, but I want to tell this to you because it makes a point to where 12 months from now, you guys can be exactly where you envision yourself being. So we found my brother in the hospital almost dead in 1994. He heard the Serenity Prayer for the first time at age 36 and decided that he was just going to change his life and stop, doing crack and get married and have kids. And I'm like, bruh, like this, what you smoking now, right? Are you serious? But that was his vision. And I couldn't tell him anything differently about what he wanted to accomplish. But he was willing to do the work, and that was his vision. So sometimes when you have your vision, you want to get out of debt, your girls are calling you, say, hey, let's go shopping. And you're like, no. Or, you want to get to the point where you can get a greater return off your investment. Or Michelle, you're rolling with people and they're like, they don't understand why you're making the decisions you're making. But it's like, it does not matter. When you decide that you want something and you see it and it's real to you, you've got to believe it more than anybody else, even if your family doesn't believe it, right? So my brother told me again, after being homeless for 6 years and on crack and almost dying, when he just came out of it, he's talking about he wants to get married and have kids. I'm like, get real, bruh. I love you and I'll support you, but hey, let's just take it step by step. So now, fast forward, that picture on the right, it was a year from then. We got him in August of 1994. In August of 1995, he was married. Later on, he adopted 2 kids. One of his daughters graduated from UNT in 2020 and has a daughter who's 1 year old now. She's married. His son was going to UNT. He's now a personal trainer, and he lives in Denton. And so you cannot tell me what's not possible in 12 months. So the bottom picture is in 2019, less than a year before he passed away, I convinced him to share his story on the Empower series. So if you're a YouTuber, Clifton Johnson, from homeless to husband, father, and community servant, his story is out there for you. But I share that with you, not just to impress upon you that whatever you envision is real. And sometimes you could have a vision or a dream in the worst possible scenario, but you've got to believe it. Like Dennis Kimbrough said this, you got to believe like Johnny. So Johnny's in the 2nd grade and he's drawing a picture, and his teacher comes up to him and says, Johnny, what you drawing? I'm drawing a picture of Jesus. And she says, well, people don't know what Jesus looks like. Johnny says, they will in a minute. So you've got to believe no matter what. And so let's talk about it. Let's talk about what financial literacy is, okay? Financial literacy is different for everybody. But as I told you before, financial literacy to me is not about cryptocurrency, the hottest investment. It's about really you believing and having the mindset that whatever you envision is possible. And you have the resources around you to achieve it, no matter how much lack you might see. Whatever is inside of you is greater than what's outside of you. It does not really matter. So financial literacy is really your ability to understand financial matters, to make decisions that are appropriate for you, to manage your resources to achieve your goal. Now, the foundation of financial literacy is really understanding some basic financial concepts. It's budgeting and cash flow, getting out of debt, and financial planning. How many of you right now, by raise of hands, have a financial advisor? Okay. So less than half in this room. If you're online and you don't have a financial advisor, one of the things I'm going to encourage you to do is to get an advisor. So your financial advisor can be a banker. It could be somebody that is referred to you from a friend. At this point in time, I'm doing the Empower series because there were times where people came in to meet with me, and they were not really the type of clients that my companies were paying me to work with. So I started doing these workshops. And I'm talking to you, my family, about the things I talk to my clients about. I talk to them about their dreams, their goals, their vision. I talk to them about starting a business. I talk to them about getting out of debt. We're talking about financial literacy today. Next month, we're going to talk about finding scholarships for education, for college. We're going to talk about preparing to buy a home or to upgrade, real estate investing. We're going to talk about physical fitness, mental mindset, getting life insurance, and estate planning. Those are all of the topics we talk about every year for 15 years. And so if you don't have a financial advisor, this could be the first step to getting one, and I've got some resources that I'm going to share with you. But we're going to talk about what financial literacy is, and right now, I want just a few of you to tell me, what is financial literacy to you? How would you define financial literacy? Hope.
Knowing how much money you have coming in
Okay. Look, and we didn't even talk, but I would tell you that knowing how where your money's coming from and knowing where it's going is the basis for any decision you make. If you don't know that, you can't even get good advice from a financial advisor. So Hope, you're right on point, and you know, in the Empower series, we hope to give hope. So thank you, Hope for coming. All right, so someone else, Eric, what is financial literacy to you, man?
I would say making sure you maximizing the use of all of the income that you have. So knowing what's coming in, knowing what's going out, and then also the right places and positions to put the money, so that ultimately for me, you know how to make your money make money.
You know, that's a good point too. So not only knowing where your money is going and where it's coming in from, but maximizing how you're allocating it. So we're going to talk about just that, and that right there is the foundation of financial literacy, because we're all at different points. We all have different scenarios. So this workshop is not something that is going to be customized to each individual, but it's something that is general and it's just education. You've got to sit down with somebody and really lay out where your money's going, what your goals are, and get some advice and be willing to do things differently to achieve your goals. So that is financial literacy. Now, I'm going to ask you a question. We talk about money, we talk about mindset, right? So when you think of money, I want you to think about what do you think about it, right? I'm going to tell you that one of our speakers, Munson Steed, came. He's the owner of Rolling Out Magazine. And Rolling Out Magazine is the largest African-American chain of newsletters in the United States. So he came and did a program called the Collaboration Principle. He talked about collaborations, how we got to be better angel watchers. If we don't have a collaboration of people that we already are working with that can give us advice around accounting, marketing, technology, and other matters, that we need to create a board, a personal board of advisors. He talked about money. So he says, what does money mean to you? To him, money means manifesting opportunities and negotiating everything yourself. So manifesting opportunities, think about that. We talked about visioning, right? What's in our mind? So what are the thoughts that are going through your mind, and how are you manifesting those? So money is about manifesting opportunities, which is endless based on your perception. So manifesting opportunities and negotiating. Everything is negotiable. Who you spend your time with, the fact that you decided to come here for the Empower series, you're watching this YouTube channel. You might watch the whole program, or you might just watch 5 minutes. But the fact is, you're negotiating. As long as you're getting something of value, then you're going to continue to watch. So I'm going to say that the value that you're going to get out of this is going to be based on how much you put into it, how much attention you give it. And he also says when you're going someplace, be intentional about what you do with your time. So Phyllis, be intentional about what you're doing right now and getting out of debt. Be intentional about getting a greater return from your portfolio and going from stage 3 to stage 4. Making sure you're covering the expenses that you want to cover, right? Whatever that is, be very intentional and be very disciplined and consistent, and you will achieve what you want to achieve. So the question here is, what are your thoughts about money? Write that down. What is money to you? What does money mean to you when you hear that word? Do you think money is in abundance? Money is just, I heard something where money is a certificate of service. So we are in this life to provide some kind of value and service. In exchange for that, we usually get money. So the amount of money we have are simply certificates of service that we provided. And if you don't have enough money, maybe you need to provide more service, right? So what is money to you? Put some thought to that. This is about mastering your mindset around money, which means that you've got to be aware and intentional about your thoughts and your feelings about money, because they're driving you. If you're not where you want to be right now, if around you it's like not where you want to be, then you got to take ownership that the biggest thing that affected you being in this position are not external factors. It's your consistent beliefs and thoughts about money. So let's think about this. For me, part of my why to this is that money is not really to give me a bunch of stuff. I would like to have freedom of choice, and I really have access to freedom today no matter how much money I have. So I want to have freedom. I want to create a legacy. The Empower series is my legacy. There was a thought that I had where if I had the ability to create or influence 1,000 millionaires, or me just be a millionaire myself, which would I choose? I would choose to influence 1,000 millionaires, right? So money to me is not so much material things. I want to have an impact. I want to make sure that the Empower series continues to inspire people long after I'm gone, and it gets bigger. So that's my legacy, giving. I want to be able to give without worrying about, oh, I don't have enough for myself. And I want to provide some level of security for my family. So what truly matters to you? And my father-in-law told me once that money is not going to be worth my life. It's not going to be worth my life. But what does it mean to you? You have to have your own reasons for money. Why are you going to start making decisions that are different than how you've been making decisions when it comes to making enough money to accomplish your goals? So think about that. I want to talk to you too about this. We're going to talk about tracking your money, debt, saving, investment essentials. But a lot of times people are thinking, dude, well, we got to have money, right? So let's talk about money first. Let's talk about income, because we can track our money easier if we have money coming in. So there's some times where I met with clients and they were like in between jobs, or, we can talk all day about asset allocation, different investments, but we need to get you a job. we need to, grow your business. So we need to do something to solve the income. So I'm going to talk about income first, and then we're going to get into the 4 pillars. So let's talk about what income is. So here's my perspective. I'm going to ask for you guys to chime in on this, but income is simply a reflection of the value that you're giving people. So you've got to be valuable. And there are all these different things you can do. You can be a doctor, an attorney, a teacher, or a janitor. But whatever value you're giving the marketplace is how you're going to get compensated. So it starts with value. You're not paid an hourly rate, because for that same hour, a doctor might make a lot more in that same hour than someone who's a teacher. So it's not the hourly rate that you're paid. So that's a mindset. You get paid based on the value that you give the marketplace. And the value that you give the marketplace may be influenced by your education, but you don't need an education to be of value to the marketplace, right? But if you do decide to get a certification or a doctorate, so if you're a doctor, if you are a surgeon or an attorney, those services are valued higher than a generalist. But so if you want to make more income, you can look at either increasing your value, your certification, so that you can offer more value to the marketplace and get compensated on that, or what are the other things you can do? So right now, you guys all making enough money, enough income? Yes? No. No. So
Enough, how do you define enough?
that's why, yeah, good point. So enough for you, right? So some people might say, yeah, I'm making enough. Some people might say no. So the thing is, if you're not making enough income, if you want to make more, then my thought is increase your value. So what does that mean? Increase your value of maybe people with certifications usually get paid more because they're providing more value. You also, how many people think that they are not into sales? If you are not a salesperson, raise your hand. Okay, so most people, if you're not in the sales, okay, here's the deal. You are in the sales. You've already sold somebody. If you're working, the people who raised their hand, are you working in a job right now? No?
No.
Okay. No?
I'm retired.
You're retired. Some people? Okay. So right now, whatever income that you're getting, if you're getting any income, it's coming from the value that you're giving somebody. And so your one client that you're selling to, if you're in a job, is your employer. If you're in your own business, it is your clients, it's your customers, right? So you are already selling something. You're selling already, and you already have one client. Your clients, or if you're in a business, or if you're an employer, you have one person that you've negotiated. Okay, I'm going to give you my time, my value for a salary or hourly rate. So now you got 2 other things if you want to increase that. Your creativity, how do you deliver that value, right? Your creativity, what is the value? What is the problem that you're solving, and how do you deliver it? So it's a simple equation. Your income is a measure and a function of your value, your creativity, and your delivery. So we can do a whole workshop on how do we increase our value, our creativity, and our delivery of our services so that we're providing more service to more people in a unique way that is compensating us to increase our income. So it's all possible. Now the question is, are you willing to change and are you willing to look deep into that? So this workshop is not going to be about increasing your income. This workshop is about assuming that you've got enough income to work with. And I will tell you that no matter how much income you have, it's enough to work with. If you're making like minimum wage, it's hard for you to be out there independently and pay rent. That's a reality. But at the end of the day, your living situation may not support you living on your own. It may support you living with some friends or a group of friends, right? But those decisions are within your realm, because I've helped people who've made $20,000 for the majority of their career. And then I've helped people who've made more money than they can ever spend. And the principles of financial literacy, what I'm going to share with you, is what made the difference of them being able to achieve their goal. But I wanted to talk to you first about understanding how income is generated. And this is an ongoing process. You will always be able to generate more income. You always are going to be able to do so because creativity is infinite. It is infinite. Creativity is infinite, right? And so I've helped people who have not saved enough money, and they're looking at me going, hey, can I retire? And I said, first we got to pray. but all things are possible, right? All things are possible because creativity is endless. So now, here's what we're going to talk about. We're going to get into it. I'm going to talk to you about 4 pillars of financial literacy. And like I said before, the pillars are really knowing where your money's going, being able to save and invest, some essentials about investments, and to get out of debt. So if I hit those 4, that's going to be, if you look at what I'm talking about in each four of those areas, there's going to be something for you. And I want you to be engaging, because if you have a question in a different area, I want you to also ask that question, because your question is not just for yourself, it's for other people who are watching. Your question is not just for yourself, it's for other people who are watching. So it starts with mindset. Right now, I want you to write down, if you haven't already, what are your feelings, beliefs, and thoughts around money? Because that guides everything. As a financial advisor, what I did is I basically had conversations with my clients, and I helped them align their actions with their values. And most times, we've got so much stuff going on, we're not really consciously thinking about that. So every quarter, my clients sat down with me for around an hour, and we had a conversation around their goals, their objectives, what they were doing with their resources, and whether they were out of track, out of alignment. And they did that on a quarterly basis, even if not many financial things had changed between our meetings. We did that simply because it is inevitable that after our meeting and they go out to their normal life, other things are going to hit them, and they may deviate from the plan. And I didn't want more than 3 months to pass without us talking again about their goals and recalibrating. Yes, Michelle. So, we talked about in our meetings. So here's what we did. Every time we met, we talked about their goals. We talked about what their objectives were. And we talked about what they were doing and whether they were still on track with their plan. Now, in the very beginning, the first meeting with any financial advisor should always be, hey, let's get to know each other. Let's see if there's a basis for us to work together. Because at the end of the day, you got to share with them your goals. If you don't feel like sharing with them the goals, then you need to find somebody else. So there has to be a basis to work together. They have to know who you are. You got to know who they are. And you got to have a willingness to say, okay, we got a basis to work. Once that happens, they got to now share with you all of their data, where their money's going, where their accounts are, and be really transparent and open. Once they do that, then we can go back, and me and my team, and go back and do the analysis and say, okay, how should these resources be allocated to help them achieve their goal? Present that plan to them. If they're in agreement, we're on point, we implement the plan, and then everything else is monitoring and just updating them. And most of the times, when you look at the hour meeting that you're having with a financial advisor, probably around 15 minutes is financial related. The rest of that is all other things, right? And so it's all about relationship. It's all about trust. So if you're not building a relationship with an advisor, whether it's a life insurance agent, whether it's a real estate agent, whether it's an accountant, an attorney, or a financial advisor, begin building those relationships now, because what's important in these relationships is trust. And the advice that you're getting is in your best interest and is not to line their pockets. So even when you don't have money, that's the time to really sit down with somebody and see if they're going to spend time with you. Or are they going to judge you based on the amount of money you have? Because a true financial advisor that is not like a seasoned one a seasoned financial advisor definitely wants to work with high net worth individuals, but they will work with family members of their clients who are just starting, right? But you need to find somebody that you trust, that you have a good rapport with, and at the end of the day, what's very, very important is that financial planning is not so much about the numbers, because the numbers speak for themselves. Financial planning is so much behaviorally. Are you behaving in alignment with your values? And how do we have conversations with you to facilitate insights of awareness of what you're thinking, what you're feeling, and what you're believing about money and your ability to achieve your goals, and what decisions are, and how is that translated into your behaviors? So it's really your attitude, your behaviors, your actions that leads to success more so than anything outside of you. So now we're talking about mastering it. So a way of mastering it is, number one, becoming aware of it. Number two would be writing it down. Number three would be reflecting upon that. And if you can, share it with somebody else. Share it with somebody that you trust. If you're in a relationship, share it with your partner. You know, if you're with your kids, you know, you give them evidence or giving them information to come at you and slap you in the face with what you tell them, right? But you can share it with your kids, your family. Share it with your financial advisor, your professionals. So the first pillar we're talking about now is creating a budget that works for you. You guys ready to go into this? All right, so here we go. Creating a budget, because a budget, like this is a B word that people don't like to talk about, right? It's what?
Like diet.
Right, it's like diet. But let me tell you, this is like a personal plan for you. Call it whatever you want, but at the end of the day, you have got to know where your money's going, where it's coming in, where it's going. And here's the thing, if you make so much money to where you feel like, oh, okay, I don't need to track in a level of detail, it is inevitable. I don't care how much money people are making. They're wasting some money. There's some money going someplace that is not as valuable as what they say they want. And I have clients that makes millions of dollars, but they're spending a lot of that money on things that are not important to them. I'll tell you, without mentioning any names, I had a client that was an ex-wife of a professional athlete. And when she came to me, they had to separate advisors. So they had an advisor that they were working with. They showed me the reports, and they provided for them of financial statements of all of their money, where it was going on a monthly basis. So a lot of times, you know, wealthy people don't do the things that common people do sometimes, right? Like they don't necessarily pay their bills. They have somebody else pay their bills. But they were providing reports of where all of their money went. Unfortunately, they were not really advising them about, you know, where should their money be going in these areas. Because basically, since she was not going to be living that lifestyle, and at some point her child support was going to end, she was not getting the advice that she really needed from them, right? So I only share that with you to say, no matter where you're going, whether it's a wealthy person, whether it's someone who owns a business or someone just getting started as a student, you have got to have a system to track where your money's going. You've got to. Any professional, it's like going to the doctor and not allowing the doctor to do the basic like weight, height, blood pressure, and blood work to kind of see what we're working with. So you have to have a system that works for you. That system has to fit you like clothes. And so what we're going to talk about real quick on this first pillar, and I want you to make note of any actions that you need to take, things that you're not doing that you probably need to do or need to do more of. So knowing where your money goes, tracking it, tracking all of your income, your expenses, categorizing it, sitting back and reviewing it and making adjustments periodically after you look at your reports. So the first step, first action is tracking your income. So there is a sheet that is in the link in the very description that allows you to track your expenses, but the same thing is for your income. So for most people, their income is one source, but for other people, they have multiple jobs or commission-based jobs, their income varies. So you have to track all of your income coming in so that you know what you're working with. And if your income is not enough to meet your expenses, then we got a different problem we got to deal with. We got to go back to how do we generate more income. but we're assuming now that you're making enough income. If you're not making enough income, then we need to have a separate conversation outside of this. But even when you're not making enough, it's important to track it so that you know what's coming in the door and what you're working with. So you got to make a list of all of your income sources. You got to understand what the total income is, and this is what you're working with. The next step is to track all of your expenses. So how many people here have a system already to track all of their expenses? Not some of them, but all of them. 1, 2, 3. If you're watching right now, if you are tracking all of your expenses, kind of let us know and tell us what system are you using. Are you using a manual system or an app to track yours? Manual. Okay, using manual. So.
Just putting notes in my cell phone.
Okay.
Because I don't have enough income, it's easy to.
Right. Okay. So making notes manually or on a notepad or even in an Excel worksheet. Does anybody use an app or any kind of automation to track their expenses? Okay, if you're not, then probably some expenses are slipping through the cracks. Would you agree with me? All right. And so the way I would say this to my clients is this. So if you have a business like AT&T, Microsoft, any business, right? Starbucks, do you think they're tracking their expenses like you're tracking yours? Yeah. Oh, like hell no, right? Would you invest in that? So here's the thing: you are a business, and so what's really interesting is that if we are in some kind of leadership position at a company and we have a budget, we would do a budget, and then we would track our budget, and we will report that to our higher up, and we will be accountable for the budget. If we need more money for something, we would go and get them more money. If they're going to give us less money, we got to figure out how we're going to get more results with less money, right? We do all of that, and we track our budgets at work. But at home, which is the number one business we have, we take a break. We relax. We do, it's like, come on, like if you were a company, would you invest in you? You would. But it's investing in because you don't have the numbers to support or what? Like, if you're not tracking your expenses, right? Then it's like, okay, I'll invest, but I'm investing because I love me, right? So we got to make sure that we are tracking all of our expenses. Yes.
So I was saying, Bank of America automatically has it where it tells you where you're spending your money, and it gives you a pie chart and shows what percentage for transportation, food, all that. So
Yeah.
it automatically does that, which gives you a perspective.
And that's good. So you have banking systems, financial institutions that are providing some kind of online resource to help people know where the money's going, because people need to know where the money's going, because sometimes people are spending too much money. And if you have more than one bank, then you got to go to 2 different systems. And I would agree that there are systems that are out there that would allow you to do it, and that's free. However, that's not the system that you should rely on. You should develop a system. You should get a system yourself. So there are free apps out there.
Automatically does that even just for the normal checking account, because I hate to look at it, but it just comes up, where, tracking what percentage you're using for housing and all that stuff.
And if that fits for you too, that works, right? If that fits for you, so you got to find a process that works well with you. My daughter is an artist. She would never use something like that. She likes to write it down on a piece of paper. I would not do that because I would lose my paper. So I use Quicken, right? I used another system called Microsoft Money before Microsoft Money went away. But what I would encourage you to do and make a note is to upgrade whatever system you're using. Because if you don't have a system where you can go back and create a report and run a report on a piece of paper and really analyze and see how much money are you spending on dining out, how much money are you spending on discretionary items, how much money are you spending on fixed items that you may need to negotiate to do differently. If you're not able to run it, identify how much debt you have in comparison to your assets, or how much you're paying towards debt payments as comparison to your income. If you can't run those reports easily, then you need to upgrade your system. Because there's no excuse and no reason for you not to know that. If you're serious about improving your financial literacy, you need to improve the systems that are allowing you to track your resources. And I don't care how wealthy you are. If you're wealthy, then pay somebody to do it for you. Because everybody has a system where they have a system to identify the information so they make sound decisions. If you're not tracking your income and expenses, you're not aware of the important information to make a sound decision on. So I would encourage you to do that. So that's step number 2, track your expenses. What I've given you is a sheet here where you can use to track your daily expenses. This is a hard copy sheet. You can click on the link in the description of the video on YouTube to download this. Some of you have it in front of you. This is the information that you can use if you want to use it manually. You can set this up in an Excel worksheet. There's an app that does it automatically for you. Bank of America or some financial institutions, they automatically will categorize based on the description of your transaction, what type of cost it is, but to know what it is and capture everything. So if you have more than one bank account, you got to go to different bank accounts. If you are spending money cash and through bank accounts, then you got to track it somehow. Where's your cash going? So whatever it is, you need to have a system that captures this and doesn't let money slip through the cracks. That's step number 2. Identify your assets or your income. Step number 1, have a system where you know where your money's going. No excuses for you not to know. That's like you being a manager of a budget and your boss is asking you, where's your money going? And you tell them, I don't know. So as an employee, as the employee of you, as you are the employee of you, how long can you say, I don't know, and still be employed? Right? So, number 3, once you know where all of your money is going, you've got to categorize it. So every software package, it tracks every system. There's a system out there with Quicken that allows me to download all of my transactions from my different accounts, my different credit cards, my different investments, and then I can categorize each transaction based on the type of expense, the type of income that it is, and then I can run a report that can easily tell me how much I'm spending in different categories. If you're doing this manually, then you've got to assign a category manually, because I used to do it on a piece of paper, you know, the 13-column green paper. I used to do that back in the 80s, right? And then when we got computers, I started doing that in Excel worksheets. I'm aging myself, right? I did it in Excel worksheets. And then Microsoft Money had a software package that was like an electronic check register. And so again, every transaction was identified, it was categorized, I can run reports easily. Then my PC crashed, and then I had to go to Quicken, new system, I had to learn it, but Quicken has a lot of features, right? So whatever that system is for you, there's a ton of different software packages out there. I would encourage you to find it. Then you have to categorize it to put it into an income and expense worksheet. Yeah.
I'm sorry. Can you go back to step 2? There was a bullet that says honesty is key when recording expenses. What do you mean by that?
What? Honesty is key when recording expenses. So, so you got to be honest to yourself.
Okay.
So I'll tell you that, you know, one of my kids liked to get high, and I was working with them on, oh, I don't have enough money. I can't do this. I can't do that. I said, well, wait, let's see where your money went. So whenever I helped, you know, with our kids, they always they want money. And it's like they would come at me going like, Dad, treat me like your client. I said, well, my clients ain't asking me for money, right? Like, I've helped many people without giving them any money. So let me tell you how I'm going to help you without paying for this. So let's look at where has your money gone? And so what I said to my child was, we got to be honest. You got to tell me where it goes. There's no judgment here. So let's identify where the money goes, and we'll just call it greenery. Greenery. So that being said, what we identified is that there was enough money coming in. There was just a lot of money being spent towards greenery, right? And so I said, okay, so here's what we got to do. To get out of the hole, you got to reduce the amount of money going into greenery and start allocating it to the bills that are more important, so you're not creating a high level of anxiety, right? And so when I say honesty, you got to be honest. You got to make sure you're capturing everything and not saying like, okay, well, this is not going to work. Another story is that I had a client that, you know, when you're talking to people and gathering your data, they're giving you all of their information, all of their accounts and everything. So one of my clients said, okay, hey, here's an account, but my husband doesn't need to know about this account. I'm like, so how are we going to do that when we meet together? We just don't talk about this account. So I'm like, okay, I don't want to be complicit in this, but you know, I would encourage you to be totally open, right? At the end of the day, I don't really care how many accounts you have, who owns what, but what's important is that you have open communication and you know everything that's being worked with. Now, whatever they work out, but when it comes to being honest, it's really being honest about how much money you're spending, where is it going, and then being intentional about where should it go. And the other example about honesty is when people are telling me that they want to retire, and they realize that they want to have this much money when they retire, be able to pull it out from different sources, but then they come driving up in a new Cadillac. Then it's like, oh, okay, so let me readjust things, because I thought what was more important was you retiring, but now I see what's more important is you riding in a Cadillac, right? That's more important. So let's just be honest, right? So do you see what I'm saying about being honest? Yeah. And so, but with you, if you're the advisor of yourself, now I would say be honest with yourself, right? Can you really afford that? Can you really afford to go out as much as you're going out? Or should you really just prepare meals? So look, I remember the time where my mom used to take us to the drive-in theater. You know, we would always want to go to the cafeteria, get the hot dogs and stuff. But she popped popcorn, put them in brown bags, and she made hot dogs. Because it's like, I ain't buying those hot dogs in the drive-in theater, right? But, you know, where are you spending your money that you probably shouldn't spend your money on? You know, we all have those areas. And so be honest with yourself. Make sense? Okay. So now you categorized it, and you have to put it into some kind of report. So if you're doing it manually, it's just harder to put it in a report manually. If you have your bank that's doing it, they have a good pie chart, and they can give you some good analysis, some tools. If you get a system, like an accounting system, which is what I would recommend, is a good upgrade, because it's how serious are you in managing the resource that's been given to you. So this stuff is not ours anyway. We're a steward of it, right? So how are we accounting for it? Are we doing a good job in accounting for it? If someone's going to come in after us and say, what did you do with all of this money? Do we have a system that allows us to run reports and say, okay, this is where the money was spent? When I have clients meeting with me, that they're married or they're dating, I always encourage them to bring their spouse in, or to bring their boyfriend in, or their girlfriend in. It's like, do they have a financial advisor? No. So look, I know that you're dating them because of all of the other attributes that you like, but one of the attributes should be financial planning, right? And if you haven't had that conversation, go ahead and invite them in, right? You know? Pardon me? Exactly. Exactly. And so my aunt Zelma, I don't know if you guys know about my aunt Zelma, but she would tell me that the number one decision that you need to make to have financial wealth is you need to pick right. You need to pick right, because if you don't pick right, that's going to cost you, right? So here's step 4, identify areas to adjust. So now that you know where your money's going, you're able to categorize everything, you see where your money's going, now you got to say, okay, where do I need to adjust? Where do I need to reallocate? And these are steps to where they're not exciting steps, but I tell you, the families that do this, and in most cases in couples, it's usually the wife that's doing it. You know, husbands may be making more money, but they're giving the money to their wife, and the wife is doing it. It's some cases the other way around, but in most cases, whoever's doing it is being accountable and reporting it to the other person who's not doing it. But then there's always some tension, because the person who's not doing it is not a numbers person, and they don't want to get into the details, but you got to be at least aware of what's happening, right? So what areas need to be adjusted? And then create a plan based on that information. When you create that plan, it needs to include you allocating your targeted savings amount to your goal. So if it's increasing your money going to your emergency fund, or is it increasing the money going towards getting out of debt? Is it increasing your money going towards a move or a major purchase, or just you retiring? Now, if you're not having enough money to allocate to all of your goals, or if you're short between your targeted savings goal and what you're doing, you still need to make sure that you are aware of it, right? Because we all go through seasons. We go through seasons where we're not employed, or our income is cut short. So when that happens, it's even more important that we monitor this when we don't feel like looking at it, because it's not a good picture. But I would say the discipline and the habit of doing this is critically important in you making the right decisions from a financial literacy point to achieve your goals. And so you should be reviewing this and adjusting this on a regular basis, because things are changing all the time. It's just like any other company. So again, I relate this to any business. You are a business of you. So if you're not reviewing your income and expenses and making adjustments and projecting that not just on a paycheck basis or a monthly basis, but for an entire year, then you're missing the opportunity to increase your financial literacy IQ. This is one of the biggest reasons why people are not achieving wealth. It is not investing in the hottest stocks. It's not investing in cryptocurrency. It's not having real estate, because no matter how much money is being made, if you're not monitoring it, it's like what you do with it, right? It's how much do you keep? And you may not be feeling the pain as somebody who's working like minimum wage. You may not be feeling it because you can still breathe. You can breathe freely. But when it comes to you wanting to sit back and get in stage 4, or be at a point to where you don't need to worry about working at all because you've got a return from your assets that's enough to sustain your life for however long you want to live. If you're not looking at this to make sound decisions or get advice from someone, from an estate planning perspective or a financial planning perspective or a life insurance perspective, you're missing the boat. So here's the way I look at this to wrap up pillar 1. Pillar 1 is that your money is your team. You know, nothing of significance can ever be done alone, right? You need a team of people. Team of people doing the Empower series. We got Eric being a volunteer, advisory board member. We got Edward making us look good on social media. We got you being here. Everybody has a role, right? So your money is your team. So your money has a responsibility and has a role in you achieving your goal, paying your bills, saving for the future, getting your life insurance, all of those things. So a budget simply assigns every dollar a task. It gives it a role, just like you have, like you couldn't, if you're managing a group of people and you're not giving them responsibilities, they're just doing whatever they want to do, that's not going to work, is it? So you've got to have a role for every one of your dollars, and then when that happens, you will be effectively managing your finances, and you're keeping your team focused. Does that make sense, that analogy?
It does.
Because my daughter doesn't like my analogies, but but I think this makes sense, right? So like your money is your team. Can you say this? Your money is my team. My money is my team. My money is my team. So that could be a belief that you have. My money is my team, right? So look, I'm a championship team. You know how they say defense wins championships, right? But offense sells tickets, right? So you got Steph Curry, you got all these players that are like they can score, but if you don't have a defense, you're gone, right? So in this model, your team and your defense, which is budgeting, knowing where your money goes, making sure none of the money is slipping through the cracks, that is going to help you win the championship of increasing your stage of wealth. Make sense?
Yes.
So how you guys feel about the first pillar?
Great.
So people don't like to hear about it, but I'm telling you, so you need to write down right now. I gave you several actions. What are the things that you're going to do to increase your pillar of knowing where your money goes and then dictating through your team where it needs to go?
Get a system.
I would encourage you to upgrade a system. If you don't have an automated system that you are proud of, that you can run reports easily, give to your CPA, give to your financial advisor and say, hey, this is where all my money has gone, and be honest with it, then it's time for you for an upgrade, right? So that's step number 1, pillar number 1. Financial advisors we sell life insurance, debts. Paid when you save into you really need to do, right? So right now, if you're at that point to where you might be putting money into a retirement account, but you need to really put more attention to your savings and your debt, then Thrivent. How many people have heard of Thrivent? So Thrivent, Thrivent. Thrivent is a financial services company, but the link for Thrivent is in the description of the video underneath. They have something called Money Canvas, and what they provide is free financial coaching. They will have 3 sessions with you. It's virtual, it's online. It will help you set up a budget. It'll help you identify your goals, set up your budget, and monitor that. Because financial advisors don't get paid for it, but we realize that this is critically important to building wealth. It's the first step to building wealth. And no matter where you are, even if you've got a lot of investments, going through this model will help you find some dollars that are slipping through the cracks. But Thrivent offers a free service that will help you track where your money goes. It will help you make better financial decisions, help you become more aware of your beliefs around money, and it's a free resource. So another thing that the Empower Series does is we tap you into resources that are not being used. They need more people aware of this and taking advantage of this. So right now, how many people have not heard about this before? Okay, so if you find this, I would say even if you don't think it's going to be valuable, do it. It might give you some insights to help improve your game. If you think your game is tight, try this, right? You'll find something new. So this is about listening for a change of heart, not listening for confirmation, or I know how to budget, or I know how to do, or I got a system that's good. Listen for a change of heart. Maybe calling them and setting up a session, the first one will help you take that first step and give you some insights. Munson Steed also said that we need to be better angel watchers. We don't know who that person is going to be our next connection that's going to help us take the next step towards our next opportunity. So Thrivent Money Canvas, check it out. Free service, no money, no cost to you, but definitely a cost to do it. So ready for pillar number 2?
Yes.
All right. Pillar number 2 is building a robust savings plan. So you've got to have a clear goal. And a clear goal, so I want you to write down some goals right now for you. You said one of your goals is to get out of debt, right? And so I think every year you should identify in December where you're going to be on certain benchmarks. You should identify how much money you want to have how much more money you want to have liquid to not just take advantage of emergencies, but take advantage of opportunities. So your goal around financial literacy should be by December of 2025, I want to have X amount of money in a savings account. If you feel like you already got enough money in savings and you need to put money someplace else that you're not going to use, but you don't want to like lose purchasing power, then you want to make sure that you're putting it into maybe a higher yield savings account or maybe even a CD. But you want to make sure that it's accessible, right? And it's not, the principal is not at risk. One of the advisors I talked to said, man, out of the years of servicing clients, one of the things that if I look back and I had to do it over again, it would have somebody save a year's worth of income in some type of non-risky investment. So if you don't have a year's worth of income in a non-risky investment, that might be a goal for you. How do I get closer to that level? You might have 3 to 6 months, which is a good start, but then have 9 to 12 months in some other risk-free investment. You just know that that's like, hey, I don't care money. So have a goal. Have a goal as to how much money you want to have in your investment portfolio. You may want to have a goal about how much of a return you would like to get this. Now, a return is not that controllable. What you can control is how much money you put into it. So I would say have a goal as to how much money you want to invest into your investment portfolio for a long-term goal. If you want to buy a car, how much money you want to put aside for a car? So most people think that there's good debt and bad debt. Like most people, they don't have money to buy a car, so they get a car loan or buy a house. But there's some people who buy cars cash. They may not buy a new car, they might buy a car cash, but they've saved money for it. So if you want to buy a car and you know what you want to buy 3 to 5 years from now, identify a goal of how much money you want to save towards your car or your major purchase. How much you want to be out of debt. So what are your liabilities and how much do you want to reduce that by December of 2025? So please take the time. This is not a seminar, this is a workshop. So you should be writing down notes. In those categories, what are your numbers? What do you want your numbers to look like by December of 2025? If you have not done that, if you cannot sit down with somebody that you trust and say, hey, here are my financial goals. It could be just sitting down with you. But at the end of the day, write them down. You have to have it written down. And then you have to put systems in place to where your savings is automatic. It cannot be based on how you feel. Because feelings will go up and down, right? So we're going to talk about each one of these. So step number 1, as I said before, is set clear goals. So define what is your goal. I want you to take the time to do that now, not later. So like I said, you can pause this tape, write down what are your specific goals. Writing them down actually increases your motivation, and being able to see them is important. So some people say, oh, I know what my goals are in my head. Okay, that's cool, that's you. Studies show, though, that people who write down their goals have a greater chance of achieving them. So if you don't want to increase your odds of achieving them, that's on you. But you can write them down. These are best practices. And then you should have short-term goals, mid-term goals, and long-term goals. So a short-term goal is that anything that you want to accomplish within 12 months. That is short-term. So have some goals written down where you want to be financially in 12 months from now, December, let's just say December. Mid-term goals is anywhere from 1 to 3 years, December. Mid-term goals is anywhere from 1 to 3 years. So 1 to 3 years from now, where do you want to be? Have a vision of that. My brother wanted to be married in 12 months. I'm like, dude, and he did. So whenever I think about where I want to be, I check myself on that. You can all have personal experiences yourself or know of somebody. If that can inspire you, right? So what are they? Write them down, put them in front of you, be specific. If a long-term goal is anything from 3 or more years, or 5 years or greater, but have goals, write them down. I actually ran across my goals that I wrote down in 1989. Ain't that crazy? Crazy. So what I will tell you about my goals that I wrote down what the goals were. I wrote down my reasons why. And when I look back at them, I was like, okay, I did some of them, I didn't do all of them. But here's what I know. The ones I did, I gave attention to. The ones I didn't do, I didn't focus on, right? And my short-term goals, I'll tell you my first 4 goals, which were short-term goals. The first one was to have a closer relationship with God, my ex-wife at that time, my family, my daughter, my family, and my kids, basically, right? Because relationships are more important than money to me. Relationships can lead to money, but that was number one. I didn't want money to get in the way of getting close with God and the people important in my life. The second goal was my health, physical and mental health. So it was meditating, it was staying healthy physically, and I did that easier when I was younger. Now, for some reason, it's easy to say I'll do it tomorrow, but I got to be disciplined about that, right? But I'll tell you that is important to me because all of the money in the world is not going to help if you are hurting, right? Or you're sick. So that was my second goal. My third goal was to never be concerned about financial matters. And that wasn't saying that I'm going to have so much money I'm not going to be concerned. I realized that if I didn't have a lot of money, there's going to be some, I got to do some things. If I had a lot of money, there's going to be some different things I got to do. But at any point, never be concerned about that. Right? Money will come and go, but keep a level mind about no matter what my income is, because all things are possible. Whatever is inside of me is greater than whatever is outside of me, and money is outside of me. So I never want to be concerned about that. Then the last thing I had there had to do with my daughter. And, at that time, I wanted to create as positive an environment as possible because we were getting divorced, and my daughter would probably tell you that I didn't do a good job on that one. But those were my goals. So I share that with you. And then I had some other financial goals, right? And what's interesting, my long-term goal, I'll fast forward. My long-term goal, after I had, I'm living in every state. I have a condo in every state or every city that I want to live in. I only have a loft here in Dallas, right? I want a jet. I wanted, to be in stage 5, right? I'm not in stage 5 yet. But my last goal was this, and I remember when I was writing this down, I was thinking how many to say, but I wanted to make sure that whatever I did is I was helping at least one family to achieve their goal, to get started on the right track every year. And I was thinking, is one enough? I said, well, let me at least say one. I want to help more, and I would say my Empower series is that. So when I go back and I'm telling you about goals that you will realize and you will not realize, it is a function of what you focus on, what you're disciplined on, what you're consistently taking action on. Those that you are not achieving, it's not like it wasn't possible. You just wasn't as focused and consistent in the actions behind it. So I share that with you. Set clear goals, and then review them and see them and visualize yourself achieving them. Step number 2. You got to determine how much you're going to save. Like I talked to you before, in stage 1 of creating wealth, you got to identify your targeted savings goal. So what is that to achieve your 1-year goal, your 1 to 3 year goal, or your 5-year or greater goal? What is the amount? And I would say don't be so concerned about your ability to save that amount today. Save something. I don't care if it's 1%, 3%, 5%, whatever it is, get into the habit of consistently saving. Because you achieve goals not by saving a lot of money all at once, but you achieve your goals by making consistent small steps on a regular basis. So determine what that amount is, make sure that it's manageable. Consider, again, all of your expenses. If you don't know how you're spending your income, then it's going to be hard for you to identify the amount, but work on that. That's step number 2. Step number 3 is to automate your savings. Make it out of sight, out of mind. I automate all of my bills. My bills are paid automatically. My savings is automatic. Right? And then there's sometimes if you don't have enough income, you might want to have more control and you want to take that auto debit off, right? Because like, ooh, where did that was coming from, right? And there was a time where I was like, okay, I had to make sure I didn't have something coming out before I said it can come out, right? But make as much as possible your savings at least. Your savings is automatic. That's not subject to your feeling or your thoughts. Pay yourself first. Now, we talked about budgeting tools. There's a list of budgeting tools here. There's Rocket Money, there's Empower Personal Dashboard, there's Simplify by Quicken, Monarch Money, Every Dollar, and there's others that are free. I use Quicken, which has a cost to it, but there's a ton of software packages out there. I would encourage you to find it and automate it as much as possible. So upgrade your tracking mechanism so that you're not doing it by hand. You gotta have it automated, right? And then build an emergency fund. If you already have your emergency fund built, that's cool. But if you don't have an emergency fund, build it. If you're going through transition, like I'm going through a recent transition, my emergency fund was depleted, I'm building it back up, right? So no matter where you are, you can always have fund for not only emergencies, but also have funds for opportunities. So if an opportunity comes your way and it's a real estate deal and you need some cash to put into it, you don't want to leverage it, then that's another reason why you should have more than just 3 to 6 months of your living expenses. Because once you take advantage of that opportunity, you don't want to deplete your emergency fund. So I would encourage you, if you're at 3 to 6 months of your living expenses, continue to save into your emergency fund as you achieve your other goals, right? And there's different systems in doing that. I encourage people to have really 2 savings. One is for things that you will put money into, and then you know you're going to take money out at some point in the future. But your emergency fund should be out of sight, out of mind. So I call my emergency fund on my accounts lockbox. Like it's locked. It goes in there, it's not coming out unless I got to break the glass and something serious, right? So emergency fund. Step number 5, explore different vehicles. So right now, there was a time prior to this heightened inflation that we had where any money that you're putting away into a savings account or anything that your principal is not at risk is not going to give you a rate of return that's greater than inflation, right? In order for you to get a return, you have to put your principal to some type of risk. And so a lot of times when people were putting money into a savings account, they were upset that it wasn't earning any money. But at the end of the day, that's not the purpose of the emergency fund. The purpose of the emergency fund is to make sure that it's there when you need it, not that it grows. There's another bucket for that, and we'll talk about that from an investment perspective. But when you're looking at this emergency fund or money that you don't want to put at risk, you want to put it into things that gives you at least the highest return. Now, I said prior to the inflation going up, but what happened when inflation was going up to around 9 and 10 or 8 and 9? When it was getting high, then there was a bigger gap between the 1% that you were earning on your savings account and what inflation was. So there was an act that increased how much was being given on savings accounts, like to 4%. I think 4 to 5% is now the range for a high yield savings account. But inflation has come down now to where the projection of long-term inflation is more like 2 to 3%. So you can probably find a high yield savings account that provides a 4+% return on it for your emergency funds, where your principal is not at risk, but yet you're saving money and you're not losing as much purchasing power. So there's a link underneath the video, again, where you can click on and find different things. It's the bank rate website where you can click on and find high yield savings accounts if you don't have one in your current savings account or current banking system. So that's step number 5. So before we go on to pillar number 3, want to know, are there any questions about the second step there of saving. Any questions online? Eric, are you watching online at all? Do you have the ability to do so? So if you can, like if you look on your phone, if someone is asking a question online, you can speak for them, okay? So any questions here? No? All right, so we're going to move on to investments. So how many people came here to hear some investment stuff? Yeah, I know. Okay, so here's what I want to make sure. So for those of you who raised your hands, what are your questions about investments? So I'll start with you, Al. Since you raised your hand, and you're in front of you, right?
I guess like currently I invest, but it's the way you talked about not listening for confirmation today, but listening for a way of changing the type of investing that I'm doing. So I'm do a lot of investing.
Okay.
And so I'm listening for any nuggets of changing some of the things that I'm doing now.
All right, so let me ask you a personal question. You don't have to answer this though.
Sure.
So what you just said for the people who are watching online is that you're following my advice. I appreciate that, but you're hearing what I'm saying, you're following it. So listen for a change of heart, don't listen for confirmation. So instead of you sitting there going like, oh, I know this, you're thinking, okay, so what should I do differently, right? So let me ask you on the investment side of it, one of the things I talked about is your targeted savings goal.
Yes.
So would you say that you're investing enough money for your targeted savings goal?
Yes, I am.
Targeted savings and investment goal.
Yes.
Okay. So what are you looking for that?
I'm trying to figure out how to squeak out a little bit more. In fact, I was sitting up here saying I may have to make some tough decisions on some services that I really like and say, do I really like them that much, or do I want to slide some more over?
Okay. I'm glad you said that because the goal in stage one is not to just just to save and invest your targeted savings goal. Is to invest that or exceed it.
Yep.
So you're saying that
Figure it out.
how do you exceed it? Okay, great. Thank you for sharing that, and I'll share some things with you that are hopefully new. Michelle, you raised your hand too. So when you say you want to hear something about investing, what specifically were you looking for? Would you like to hear about?
I'm not certain exactly what the answer is. I guess, just, all right, I guess, how to diversify.
Okay, diversification, right? Risk. And I know you have a financial advisor, right, Al? You? Okay. Michelle, do you have a financial advisor?
Engaged with one just this past week.
Okay, for the first time. For the first time in your life? Really? So,
I've always done the 401k thing at work, right? But
yeah.
I just needed to get more focused on these are my end goals. So how do I get there now? I got a little while. I've got 2 kids in college, so I got to get done with that in 2 years, and then I can get to the next goal.
Okay, and so thank you for sharing that, Michelle. So Michelle was saying that she has always been investing in her 401k at work, which is probably like most people investing in their retirement plan, but not really meeting or sitting down with a financial advisor for one reason or another, right? But it really doesn't matter what the reason is. What statistics show is that people who meet with a financial advisor usually have more money set aside for their goals. And it's simply because anything else, if you work with a coach, you're going to be better, right? It's like you'll do more, you'll stay more disciplined, you'll be more consistent, and that's the key. And no matter how consistent or disciplined you are, if you work with somebody else, they can help you be more. So every great athlete, every great business person, every great person has had some type of mentor or coach that has helped them see things that they didn't always see and help them be better. So the essentials when it comes to investing. Were you going to say something, Michelle?
I was going to say,
Hope.
I'm not at the point of investing, but I want to get the information from when I am, because I don't have enough income, so I'm at survival mode, I have some credit cards that have 30% interest. I'm trying to pay those off, get rid of those, and that would increase my income, so, yeah, I'm in survival mode and trying to get out of that, increase my income, and then get to the point of being able to invest.
Okay, Hope, I want to thank you for sharing that, and Hope, I'll get to your question. I want to say for the audience, for the online audience, that we have somebody here who is not really making enough money to invest at this point in time because she has more credit card debt that's at 25 to 30% interest. And it's important to get those down, and that's the fourth pillar. But right now, she wants to educate herself so that when when the money is freed up, she's now more informed and she's not trying to get educated and invest at the same time. So you're not alone in that. So thank you for sharing that. And Hope, were you going to say something else?
Yes, I had a question. So I do want to start to save, and I have actually written down some notes over the past couple of weeks about trying to be more intentional about writing down what my goals are and what I want. So I have been kind of manifesting that already. But the start for me is I need more income, and I have great value and I bring a lot to the table, but I don't have enough income. So I have a lot of good stuff on my resume, but it seems like I apply to jobs, but I'm not communicating my value in the best way possible. And so I want more advice and help on how to kind of, I guess, market myself better, because I feel like the value that I'm communicating is not the value, it's not getting across.
Okay. And so you're not alone in that position too. So another attendee was saying that she has goals that she's written down and she's manifesting them. However, she needs to increase her income. She believes that she has a lot of value, but it's not hitting the right people, or maybe there's a level of creativity or how that value is being delivered that can increase your income. So you need assistance with that. So one of the things about the Empower series is being connected to the resources that help you take the next step towards your goal. I encourage everyone that's watching now, if you have anything that is specific, to email thrive@empowerseries.com, and I will get myself or my team on it, and we will connect you to the resources to help you get in front of the right people to express your value proposition that will lead to you making more money. Because I do believe that there's a lot of value that you have, and if you're not getting compensated on that value, then it's simply a change of tactics and strategy. So definitely stay connected with me, and we will work on that. Okay? So now, going back to investments. Great opportunity for you to learn some fundamentals. So understanding the fundamentals of investing, just the basics. We're going to explore the importance of the timing, right? But I would encourage every single one of you to do two things. Number one, if you're not ready to invest, but you want more money out of your income or just have the foundation, contact Thrivent. Contact them. It is 3 virtual sessions that they will take you through that will help you put some structured thought to your finances that you will get value out of, and it's only going to cost you your time. And it will be well worth it. If you, for any reason, it's not valuable for you, get back with me. If it is valuable for you, get back with me anyway. But that's step number 1. Step number 2 is you should definitely work with a professional. You should definitely meet with a financial advisor. I have some referrals that I can give you. There's been several financial advisors that presented at the Empower series. So you can look at our videos on YouTube. And if you want a referral, email me at thrive@empowerseries.com. Another resource, were you going to say something, Eric?
I was going to read to you a comment that was made, and give you an opportunity to respond to it.
Go ahead.
STW Crypto says his points are all valid. For you, however, he does not cover you learning the difference between currency and money. Says true wealth comes from using currency to purchase money. And then followed up with, he said, you work for currency, you should save money. Saving currency and investing for currency is a losing proposition.
Okay. So, again, I would tell you this. I would tell you this. So, every perspective has value, right? So, I would say work with a financial professional, and for every individual, based on your stage of where you are, stage 1 through 5, in your financial accuracy or financial literacy, definitely find out more about currency, cryptocurrency. But I'll tell you that there are people who are wealthy who are investing in multiple things, right? It's not just one lane, right? There are people wealthy in every lane. At least that's been my experience. Over the 20 years of working with financial advisors, I have found people who have very little intelligence, but have a business that is kicking out more revenue than they can ever spend in their lifetime. And they're not investing in crypto or any kind of currency market, right? I'm not saying those are not good investments. They are. That's not my lane. But I would say find a lane that is for you. And if that is your interest, investigate that and find someone that you can get that can educate you on that. So that's a valid point that he's making. Yes?
Sorry, you said Thrive Into that. Is that a website or something?
Yeah, so there's a link to Thrive on the PowerPoint presentation. On the very last page is a resource link, and you can go to the website for Thrive in Canvas or Money Canvas and get coaching. So there's another link to the Dallas Federal Reserve that has a basic document here that talks about building wealth. And so in this document about building wealth, it talks about having a goal, defining what wealth is to you. It talks about knowing where your money is, know where it's going, and freeing up enough money so that you're living enough within your means to have money left over to invest in whatever investment that's appropriate for you. To give you an example of the importance of knowing where your money's going and living within your means. How many people know Roland Parrish? Okay, so Roland Parrish, I've met him a few times. He was talking at Vista Bank. They do this on the third Friday of every month. There's a networking, business banking, and brunch. Were you going to say something?
It's funny, I wrote that down. I came in this direction. Vista Bank has a financial literacy center?
Yeah. So Vista,
I didn't know what that was.
there's a Vista Bank that's off of Martin Luther King Boulevard. You have Vista Bank, you have the Black Chamber of Commerce, and you also have a young lady that presented here back in February. She is the South Dallas Fair Park Innovation Center, which is like a co-working space, very affordable. And so she is an entrepreneur trainer and innovator. And so then also Vista Bank has a financial literacy center, which is a room that either I can do workshops in, and I was talking to Lubbock Smith about doing a workshop on The Millionaire Next Door, the principles in the Millionaire Next Door book. So we may be working together. I might do another workshop that's not on a Saturday because they're closed on Saturdays. But Vista Bank, what I was going to say, Roland Parrish was speaking. I want to share two things with you about what he said about creating wealth. One of the things I'll share with you is that he talked about the importance of living within your means or beneath your means. And as he has 25 McDonald's franchises, and he is the second largest African American franchise owner of McDonald's in the nation. Okay, and he shared his story about how he got started, what motivates him with his grandfather, what he's learned, and one of the things that he learned is that you have to live within your means. When he had like 5 McDonald's, he said he was living off the revenue of 2 of them. Now that might be a lot of revenue for some of you, but I'll tell you, people have a problem not spending all of their money, right? They increase their lifestyle. But he was talking about the importance of the discipline of living within your means. And so I have clients that really did not invest in anything, special, but they invested in traditional investments, and they live very comfortably, and they have enough money to last their lifetime, and they're not hurting at all. They got 3 residences in different states that are fully paid for, and they're living a very full life. And so it is possible, if you practice certain disciplines and certain consistency, regardless of your income, to live a fulfilling life. But you got to be disciplined about it, and you got to have the discipline of living within your means. And so that is easier said than done. But I have people who are saving 50% of their income, and they're not making like a large income. They're just making savings. And another example of people who have they have kids, but they're deciding to live off of one income. Like most families have 2 wage earners, but the decision to live off of one and then have a family, that's some hard choices, right? But it's possible, but you got to make those choices. So all things are definitely possible. But what I'm going to share with you, Roland was talking about the importance of living within his means, within your means, and knowing where your money goes, because he's an accountant by heart, right? So what you're seeing on the screen now is a document that the Dallas Federal Reserve Bank provides to the public. They have it for customers, they have it for community leaders like myself that may want to train on stuff that they're talking about, for teachers so they can do it in school, or for students. And so there's a link, again, in the resource section of the presentation. There's a link to that in the description of the video on YouTube, as well as in the PowerPoint presentation. There are links on the second to the last page. But these resources are available. So if you read this and there's something in there that you're not doing, I would encourage you again to do what they're saying, which is, number one, have a vision and a goal and write it down. Know the language of finance, your income, expenses, assets, and liabilities, and know where you are with that. Know about debt. Know about saving. Know about investing. And so what I'm going to share with you now are some of the principles of understanding investing. And what an investment is, basically. So all an investment is this. You make money, you can do several things with it. You can donate it, give it to someone to help, your church or whoever, from a charity perspective. You can spend it on consumable items or services, or you can put it aside to be spent later. So whether you are saving your money or investing your money, at the end of the day, you're not taking it with you. So that money that you're putting away is going to be given to somebody else and is going to be spent by somebody else at some point in time, either within your lifetime or afterwards. So when you save it, you're saving it for a future use, like emergency fund or investment or whatever that is, so you can save it, or you can invest it. And when you look at how you spend money, the challenge is a lot of times people are spending money on things that are not generating income or not appreciating in value. So an investment is anything that you get a return from. So a return can be generating more income. So for example, you could be investing in real estate, and given certain setups, if it's being leased out, it can generate income for you. Or investing in something that's going to appreciate over time in value. So the value of that is going to be greater in the future than it is today. So the appreciating asset is a car. Usually a car is not going to appreciate in value. So whatever you pay for that car, if you pay cash or if you donate or you borrow money for it, at the end of the day, the value of that car is more than likely going to be less in the future than it is today. That's an appreciating asset. So an investment has two characteristics. It's generating income for you today, or it's increasing in value. That's an investment. Make sense? So when value appreciates, that's when your net worth increases. So when your value increases, not the income, right? So there's a difference between income and wealth. And so a lot of times when you look at the systems and the policies that are set up to really keep a certain class of people from creating wealth, a lot of the low income policies and procedures are not designed to help you create wealth. They're designed to benefit someone who's at a low income and to provide them with the needs to fulfill the income gap. But those needs are not creating wealth, right? Wealth is a different measurement, and usually policies that are set up to create wealth are usually designed for business owners or landowners, right? So when you look at real estate, or you look at the tax incentives when you have a business and being able to write off certain expenses, those are policies like social policies that benefit people who are invested in businesses or real estate. So it would behoove you to understand that, right? To understand what an investment is and to invest in things that generate income as opposed to things that lose value or that you consume. But this society is based on a consumption society, right? There's so many people out there that are trying to separate you from your money. So diversification, we'll talk about that. So some things to know: compound interest. The importance of compound interest. How many people know what compound interest is? Okay, so terminology about different things of investment. So I talked to you about investments generate income or they increase in value, right? So when you're investing in any kind of investment, I'm not going to use currency because I'm not an expert in currency, but let's talk about traditional investments. And I'm not going to talk about non-traditional investments. Those are out there as well. Non-traditional investments are anything that is not a stock, a bond, or things that you can sell on a market, on an open market, right? It's non-traditional. But you look at stocks and bonds, which are available in most 401ks, mutual funds. Those are investments that generate a dividend, which is considered income or interest, or it appreciates in value over time. So when you look at compound interest, we're talking about the income that is generated from an investment. Small thing, let's say you put $100 or you put a certain amount of dollars monthly into an investment that has a certain amount of interest. That interest might be compounding every month or it might be compounding every year. But compounding means that when you get that interest in that first month, then that next month, your interest is going to be based upon not only the amount that you invested, but also the interest that you earned. So it's compounded. When your investments are compounding, it exponentially increases. So to take advantage of that, you should invest early to give you more time for the compounding to take place. The challenge with that is that you knowing about it is one thing, but you taking action on it is something totally different. So when you look at what reasons do you need to save money to take advantage of compounding interest, right? So you got there's a lot of reasons for you to do it. The question is, are you going to do it? How do you do it? And that's where it takes you to go ahead and invest. So compounding interest is an important principle. So that helps with investments, but the challenge though, and what people don't understand is that if you're in debt, that compounding interest works against you. So when you have a credit card that's charging 25 to 30% interest, think about that. That is working against you when it comes to how much money you're paying over time to get out of debt. So if you need to write that down on a board or someplace on a mirror or even on your TV, because if you're watching a movie and you are in debt, you should be going like, why the hell am I watching a movie, right? You see what I'm saying? Like there should be something you should be doing to generate income to get out of debt so that you can put yourself on the asset side of compounded interest. So if I shared anything with you, it is be intentional with your time. Be clear about your goals. Write them down, because I'll tell you right now, in my experience, the reason why people don't have wealth and they're not participating in the game is not because they're not investing in a certain type of investment. It's the reasons why. The reason why is because they're spending more of their money on items that are not generating income or appreciating in value. They're not making enough money, and they're not saving enough money. So solve for that, increase your education, and then when you have more money, you can then get in the game and start going to different stages of wealth much faster. So my intention with the Empower series is not to give you specific investment advice. It's not to give you investment advice about cryptocurrency, about real estate, about traditional stocks or non-traditional investments. I would encourage you to work with a professional, a financial advisor that can assist you in that, going to be up to date on all of those matters. I'm going to say, let's get the basics down. If we can just get the basics down in our community, we open up the gamut, because we make so much money and it comes in and it goes. We just need to be more. That's where I'm going to stay. So empower you to the next level, then I'm all in. The second thing I'll share with you is that understanding the risk and return model. This is again part of the handout that's available for you. What you need to understand is that anything that is guaranteeing you an income or your saved principal is not going to give you a return that's generally greater than inflation. You have got to put your principal to some level of risk of losing in order to get a return that is going to be anything that's going to outpace inflation. Does that make sense? And so a lot of times people, when I meet with them, they're just unrealistic. They say, hey, I want to invest this money. I don't want to lose anything, but I want like a 10, 15% return. It's like, Yeah. And they say, I want it in 3 months. It's like, there's nothing legal that I can invest you in that will give you that kind of return, right? So part of it is just understanding that model, and the way you mitigate the risk is you diversify, right? And so diversification means that you're not investing everything into one investment. You're not putting all your eggs in one basket. But this slide here tells you basically what the level of risk is and the types of investments. So on the very bottom, the purple is what we're talking about. That's financial literacy. Financial literacy is really the foundation. It's having a financial plan, it's having a budget, it's knowing where your money goes, it's creating more income generating assets and increasing your net worth. So increasing your net worth is basically saying that any money that I owe, which is a liability, is reduced. Like credit card debt, student loans, a car loan, the house, those are all liabilities. You want to get that number lower, and an asset, and I will call an asset a revenue producing asset, are investments. Things that grow in value or things that generate income. And so your net worth measures the difference between your assets minus your liabilities. That is your net worth. So if you don't know what your net worth is, that's one action. Calculate your net worth. Let's see what your starting game is. This is where I'm at. 12 months from now, you want your net worth number to be greater. That's it. That could be your goal. Then monitor your income and expenses, spend less, save more, so that when you look at your net worth in December of 2025, your net worth is going to be greater. Now you've made progress. And then learn about investments, learn about different things, learn about what else is available for you to invest in. Build a relationship with a professional, insurance agent, an attorney that does estate planning, a life insurance agent, a financial advisor, and get educated so that when you get money freed up, now you have somebody that you built a trusting relationship with and you can invest. So there's planning, and then there's protection and insurance. But now when it comes to you having your emergency fund already set up, now you want to get a greater return, then you can put things, like I was saying before, into CDs or higher yield savings accounts. It's still a level of protection, but you'll get a higher rate of return, so your purchasing value does not decrease as much. And purchasing value is, if you have $1,000 today, then $1,000 a year from now is going to be able to buy you less than $1,000 today because of inflation. So that's your purchasing power. So you really don't gain purchasing power when you have money saving in a savings account. That money is needed when you need it, right? I know people who have like thousands of dollars in that, and they don't care that they're losing purchasing power, because they want that money there so they can write a $100,000 check if they want to buy some land, or an emergency comes up, they got cash. Then if you look at the next level, there's stocks and bonds. You guys know what a bond is? So a bond is when you're lending money to someone, some other entity or government to use, and they're going to give you a rate of return on that. So when you put money into a bond investment, you're going to get a rate of return, which is their coupon or their interest, their dividends that they're paying you. However, your principal is at risk. So the value of that bond is going to go up and down based on inflation. Oh no, based on interest rates, I'm sorry. So when interest rates go up, usually the value of bonds go down. When interest rates go down, the value of bonds go up. So now you see that you're putting your principal at some level of valuation risk based on interest rate fluctuations, but what you're getting for that is income, right? And as long as you hold on to that bond until the end of that term, then you'll get your initial investment back, right? But that's a bond. Now you have equity, which are stocks, and we can talk about mutual funds later, but a stock is ownership in a company. So what you're investing in, when you invest in a stock, you're investing in the management skills and the potential revenue of another company, whether it's Apple, whether it's AT&T, whether it's Starbucks. It's like you're saying that the management team of that company is going to manage this money in a way to where the value of my stock is going to go up, and my income, which is the dividend, is going to be measurable for me, right? So what stock to invest in? Financial advisor, right? Because you looking at the stock market and deciding you can learn some skills around that, that's great. You can join an investment club. But what I'm encouraging you to do is to understand what those two types of investments are, because if you want a greater rate of return, you've got to put your principal at a greater level of risk of losing. And what most people don't get is I want the biggest return and I don't want to lose any money. And if the market is going down right now, I'm tripping out, I'm freaking out. Because you should not put your principal at risk if you're going to use your money or need your money within, obviously, the 5-year period of time. If your time horizon is 5, 10, 15, 20, the longer it is, the more you can subject your principal at risk. Now, again, I would encourage you, this document is available for you to read. It will go into more detail about the essentials of investing and how to diversify. But what I would tell you is that there are a number of different accounts out there. What I want to leave you with is this. You look at retirement accounts. Like, Michelle, you said you invested in your 401k, right? Did you get advice when you invested in your 401k? A little bit, right? So you invested primarily in mutual funds. So what a mutual fund is I call it a bag. It's a bag of different types of investments. So it could be a bag of all stocks, a bag of all bonds or different types of stocks. And so it's a mutual fund that allows individuals to have a diverse investment portfolio in a number of different companies by investing in one company. But here's what I want you to take away from this. There are 3 types of accounts. There's something, I want you to write this down. I want you to write down brokerage account. So there's a brokerage account, no title on it, just say brokerage. There is a Roth brokerage account, and there's a traditional brokerage account. Now, when I say traditional, let's say traditional IRA, which is individual retirement account. So there's a traditional retirement account, there's a Roth retirement account, Roth IRA, and then there's a, let's just say, regular non-qualified brokerage account. So is anyone in this audience familiar with what those 3 types of accounts are? Okay, a few. Anybody online? So some of the basic knowledge is this. Sometimes I hear people say, hey, my IRA generated a rate of return that was really high, and I need to invest in an IRA. When they say that, that tells me that they're not really getting it, because an IRA is not an investment. A Roth is not an investment. All that is, if you can imagine 3 different bags sitting up here, and the bag has a title on it, it is just an account. An account is not an investment. An account is something that you hold investments in. So let's say you have stocks. You can have a stock in a regular brokerage account. You can have a stock in a traditional IRA account. You can have a stock in a Roth IRA account. The only difference between in those different accounts are the features of that account. So the regular brokerage account does not have any real tax benefits. You pay taxes on any interest, or when you sell, the appreciation of that asset when you make that sell. So there's no quote unquote tax benefits. The other 2 accounts, the traditional IRA and the Roth IRA, has some tax benefits. And so the tax benefit of a Roth is that the money you put into the Roth has already been taxed. So if you hold on to that Roth account for a period of time, then when you take money out, any appreciation and any interest, dividends, you would not have to pay taxes on. But it has certain conditions. And then for a traditional one, when you put money into it, you don't pay taxes on the money you put in. But when you take money out, the money you take out, the interest and the appreciation when you take the money out is taxed. So this is not a real detailed class on that. I would encourage you, though, to really get skilled by, if you are not meeting with a financial advisor, you got to meet with one, right? Because right now, the biggest thing for you to take away is that there are different types of accounts. The way you really diversify is you go back and you invest in different types of investments. And you got to realize that diversification measures your risk. And so if you don't want to lose your principal as much, you want to invest in investments that are more like bonds, things that may not appreciate in great value, because you're not going to lose your principal, but you're not going to get that much of a return on them. If you want to get a greater return, you invest in equities, but here's what happens. If you're not saving enough money, which statistically we don't save as Americans, then we find ourselves, to get the return that we want, we have to expose ourselves to more risk. And that's because what we're talking about now, knowing where your money goes, saving enough money, not spending money to go out on things, and spending money on non-appreciating assets, we spend too much money on that. We're living so much at the line of what we're making, we're not living beneath our means enough to save money. And so that is the important factor. So I want to, in these slides are more features of the traditional IRA, the Roth IRA, but I want to kind of get through the last step and then be open up for questions and then answer specific questions. So the last step is conquering debt effectively. So how do you conquer debt effectively? You have got to know what debt you're in. So right now the steps are to list out all of your debts, your interest rates, your how much your minimum payments are, how much you owe, and then go through a systemized process of paying off either the highest interest credit card first or the lowest balance first, and be consistent with that. And while you're paying that off, not putting more money on these other cards. So first step, action item, you got to list out your debts. How many people here, I know Phyllis, you said you want to get out of debt, right?
Yes.
And then Hope, you want to get out of debt. Is there anybody else here that has debt that they want to get out of by December? Okay, so if you're online, if that's you follow these action steps, and then you can tell me what you're going to do. So number one, you got to create a plan that lists out all of your debts. List out the balance, the interest rates, your minimum payments, and knowing at least the minimum payments. We'll talk about how much you're going to pay on it, and we're going to use a technique. When that's all on the spreadsheet, we're going to use a technique, either the avalanche approach or the snowball approach, to get out of debt. And so when you have all that listed out, you have it listed by interest rate, then the method is you want to put any extra payments towards the highest interest credit card first until that card is paid off, and then take the payment once it's paid off and apply that to the next highest interest credit card. What I've done for my clients who had a lot of debt from either medical school or just student loans is when we created this schedule and we identified exactly how much debt they had, we allocated and directed the money like team members. Hey, this money is going towards paying off this credit card first, and then the next one. They all got out of debt faster than they had planned because we were focused on that every 3 months. So what you give attention to and focus to will grow. So this is called the avalanche approach, when you pay the highest interest credit card first. And the benefit of that is that you'll pay less in interest and you'll get out of debt much quicker than if you were paying a little bit extra on all debts. Eric. Yeah, go ahead, man.
Question is, if you own your house, but then have other properties that you got a loan for, is it better to pay off homes, so no interest rate, even if it's only 2 to 3%?
So that's a great question. So one of the things, I'll address that now and then I'll get back to this. So when you look at consumer debt, when they talk about good debt versus bad debt, the way I look at it is good debt is this. If your cost of borrowing money is higher than the money that you're making from the money that you have or from the asset that you have, then that's a bad debt. The only way it's good is that if your cost of borrowing money is low, but the asset that you use to borrow money to buy is generating a higher rate of return. So if you're in real estate, depending on what that real estate is for, if they're using that real estate to generate income or it's appreciating over time, that's called leveraging. That's what the banks do. So they're borrowing money at a low rate, they're investing in an asset that's generating a greater rate of return, and that's called leverage, and that's a good investment tool. In most cases, what we do as consumers is we have consumer debt. So we have debt that we use to go on trips, we have debt that we use to buy TV, we have debt that we use to buy cars, and all of those assets that we purchase are depreciating in value, and it's costing us even more. And so, Eric, the answer to that is that if you are using that as an investment leveraging tool, then it's not important to pay off that debt, but just make sure that your assets are producing at a rate of return that's greater than the cost of that capital. Okay?
And they said, can you ask, is it better to take the money you save by getting a loan and investing that at 5 to 6% potentially? Also, no credit card debt.
Okay, so again, let me get through that. I want to make sure I answer that too, but at the end of the day, we're not banks. You know, if we were a bank, that's how banks make money, right? They take in money and they pay a rate of return on that money that's lower than how they're loaning that money out and getting a high rate of return. So if we try to do that as individuals, we have so many other factors of consumption in there. Unless we have an entity or a business that is about loaning money and loaning money at a rate that is higher than the cost of borrowing that money, then more than likely we might lose in that transaction. So I would say focus on your core competency to make money, and then apply that to buying income producing assets. And if you have consumer debt, I would say if it's consumer debt, there's no consumer debt that's usually good, because consumer debt is used to consume and to purchase consumable items. And it was created for businesses to profit, not for individuals to profit. So we talked about the avalanche method. The snowball method, is just the opposite. Let's say you have you've listed your debts and you have some smaller debts, but regardless of the interest rate, it will be better if you can see progress. So you're going to focus on paying off the smaller debts first, and then that will reduce your number of debts that you're paying. So that's the method here, but either one is identifying the list of your debts, identifying that, and then having a systematic approach to paying it off. And if you're in a situation where you don't have enough income to meet your minimum payments, then you want to explore some type of consolidation options. But you got to be careful, because if you're consolidating bills and you find up that you end up that it's increasing your payment, or the interest rate is higher, it's not in your advantage. And so I really would encourage you, if you're going to look at a different strategy besides the snowball or avalanche approach to get out of debt, that you contact a financial advisor and have them sit down, look at all of your other goals, because your goals include building up an emergency fund so that when something does come up, you're not getting into more debt. It also includes saving for retirement and some of your other goals. So we need to identify, how should we allocate this excess revenue or excess income to accomplish all of the goals that you have.
And the people that call you on the phone to consolidate your debt, they're in to make money. So you should not trust them, especially even student loans. Sometimes they get a cut of it. A lot of people don't know that.
Yeah, so I would say the best thing to do is to be proactive in getting a financial advisor, or to call Money Management International. So Money Management International is a nonprofit organization. They've presented here a few times. They're the largest provider of financial counseling and financial education. They're the largest nonprofit provider of financial education and counseling in the nation. So contacting and talking to a certified credit counselor that is certified is also a good recommendation. But when someone's calling you trying to sell you something, normally that's not really in your best interest usually.
Payday loan.
Yeah. So here's the deal. If you need a reason, avoid debt as much as possible. If you're in debt right now, stop it, right? Don't get into more debt, because it's just costing you, and it's a big burden. It's the things that are holding people back from really participating in the growth opportunity of investing more money, getting a return, whatever they invest in, is the fact that they're spending more of their income. So statistically, we're saving anywhere between 4 to 5% of our income, disposable income. That's a problem. When we're saving that much money, that means that we're spending too much money. And when you listen to people like Roland Parrish, who has paid the price to really invest his money into businesses that generate income, he was disciplined with living beneath his means before he started buying a number of different McDonald's. So you got to have that discipline and consistency. And the way you develop it is doing it now. Doing it now before you have a lot of money, because if you can show discipline with a little bit of money, when you get a lot of money, it's going to be easier. If you're not disciplined now, you get a lot of money, you're going to spend that money, right? That's what we do. So, yeah, exactly. Exactly. So the other thing you can do is you can negotiate with your creditors. So if you have creditors right now that are charging you 20+% interest, you can talk to them and say, hey, I'm about to transfer my balance to some other credit card company that's offering me 0%. Can you reduce this? You don't have to be telling the truth, but you can just be trying to get them to say, hey, they're making a lot of money off of you, and they rather if they're charging you 29% and you can get it reduced to like 25 or 20, that's better than you taking all of that money away and giving it to somebody else. So Call all of your creditors that you're on time with and let them know that you want to reduce your interest. I used to do that with some of my clients. I would call on the phone with them, and just help them, or they will call and I'm there and I'm coaching them. But if you're not calling all of your creditors that you're trying to get out of debt with and asking them if they can reduce your interest, then you need to do that as an action item. A lot of times they might say no, but then if they say yes, then your dollars going towards that credit card debt is going to go faster. It's going to go more towards your goal. Debt payments are a big burden, right? They're paying on your back. So get out of debt, number one. So real quick, financial recap on your journey. So understand the importance of budgeting for your financial health. You got to realize that your future is based on your ability of saving and investing now and living beneath your means. You should all have taken notes on this, right? So here's what I want you to do right now. I want you to go back and I want you to identify in your notes, what are the things you're going to do? What are the action steps you're going to take as a result of this, our time together? How will you do it? If you need resources, I'm here for you, right? So, and then accountability is critically important. Who can you work with that can help hold you accountable? Like you talked about, Phyllis, you not hanging out with some of your friends, right? My friends know me, I'm pretty focused. They will call me and let me know about things going on, but if it's not within my goal, I ain't got time for it, right? And I'll tell you, there's some things that Edward has asked me to do that I haven't done. And if he finds out that I'm like hanging out with some friends, it's like, I haven't given him what he's looking for, he's like, dude, really? So you all need those people around you that's going to hold you accountable to your vision and your goal. And I want the Empower Series to be that. If you want me to be your accountability partner, email me, thrive@empowerseries.com. We've been doing this for 15 years and we want to do it longer. So real quick, like I said before, we're a nonprofit organization. So all of the stuff that we do, no cost to you. The investment is just your time. But doing these workshops is not costless to us. So that being said, if you know of anyone, including yourself, that want to get behind and help empower communities and individuals, I want to make sure that you know how donations can be given to us. You can either donate by texting GIVE or donate to a number 225-6337. That is 214-225-6337. If you text that number, give or donate to that number, then you'll get a secure link where you can make a donation, or you can go to our website. But at the end of the day, the Empower Series is going to be growing from here on. Next month, we're going to talk about scholarships for college or advanced education. That's in the month of May. On the third Saturday of every month from January to Thursday, we're somewhere in Dallas empowering the community. And we're live streaming our programs, and it's out there forever. So this is not the end, this is the beginning. So I want to make sure that we're open for any questions. But before we go back to questions, I want to let you know, in this handout, the next slide are resources. So everything that I talked about, there are links in this handout. So if you registered for this event, I sent you an email that has links to stuff. If you are watching this on YouTube, in the description section, there are links. All of these links are down there to other resources to find higher interest savings accounts for the Money Canvas through Thrivent. So they're all there. So I want to just open this up to questions. We've got enough time for people online, or if you're here, any questions specifically about anything that I did not cover. Yes.
I see the black middle class, because of our conspicuous consumption, living beyond our means. I see real estate as the main investment, and I don't know if you consider real estate investment. People having rent houses, and now people renting rooms, either renting rooms. I didn't know some of these houses in South Dallas, these new houses, that they're renting rooms for $800 a room, for $800 a person for a 5-bedroom house. I didn't know about that. And people actually, there's programs where you rent a room, you have the person, background check, rent a room in your house, or people that actually have rent houses, because a lot of the baby boomers did
Look, the gamut of investments are open, but real.
They asked me, can you repeat the question? So
Oh,
I know.
Yeah. Okay. So the question, that's a good point. I don't know where the mic is, but here's the thing. The question that was asked was, how do I see real estate as an investment for African Americans, basically? Because there are communities that are, you didn't say this, but there are communities that are being built that are totally rent communities. Those communities are not selling houses, they're renting houses. And also, in certain areas, houses are being set up to rent out rooms, right? So, and that's the market now, because buying a house is so unaffordable. Renting is where people are able to afford now, but now they're creating houses where rooms are being rented. And you're asking whether that is something that African Americans should really participate in and invest in. I would say, short answer is yes to that. Real estate is a great asset class. Going back to your diversification, there's not one asset class that you should put all of your money in. But definitely, real estate has been something that is neglected. It is a great vehicle to create wealth if you invest in it the right way. And to do so, you've got to be prepared to invest in it. So the first thing in order to invest in real estate and participate in that is to make sure that your financial house is in order, right? That you're not mired in debt and paying so much on debt, you are, like, if something goes wrong, you can't rent out a place, then you don't have enough money to keep it going or to keep up your rental property. So getting yourself in a good financial position where you're living beneath your means, you don't have debt, you have good enough credit, you can then enter into that space of being a landlord in a healthy way. There are all kinds of ways of getting into that space that is not where you can use other people's money, right? They might loan you money, or there's a lot of different ways of entering the real estate space. But the short answer is yes, that's a great place to be. The way to participate in that, though, is you got to make sure that you are in a good financial position to weather the ups and downs of that particular market.
oh, what I was gonna say was comparing that to other investments, that is where you're dealing with dealing with people. And I was thinking about that aspect of it, whether or not, people pay their rent, destroy your property, as opposed to other investments. Real estate is one, when you're actually renting to people, you're dealing with the human, the failings of human beings. So, you don't know if they're gonna pay their rent, destroy your property and all that. So I was comparing that, as a form of investment.
And it goes back to this, whether you should invest in real estate, because you're saying that when you invest in real estate as a landlord, you've got human beings that you're dealing with, where you got to make sure that they're not damaging your property, you got to make sure it's fixed up. You're just dealing with people who may not be able to pay their rent. At the end of the day, it goes back to the basics. You got to make sure that you have a sound financial house yourself, and when you are now having money to invest in other vehicles that generate income or appreciation in value, you've got to diversify. For some people who decide that they want to invest and own real estate as an investment, what they may not be considering is the cost of owning that, which is the fact of what you got to do is you got to be a landlord, or you got to pay for a management company to manage that, where they have to vet everybody that's asking to rent your property, and then you got to make sure that it's a good tenant, and then when they move out, you got to make sure the place is clean for the next one. So there's a lot of additional cost in investing directly in real estate that is not apparent to people who get into it sometimes, that can affect your net return. It's not like you just get 100% of the rent that comes out of it. If you don't own the property, you got to pay mortgage, you got to pay maintenance, and you got to pay your property management. So whether you should invest in that should be a decision, in my opinion, that you come to after meeting with a financial advisor. You look at your other goals and decide where do you now invest money that you want to grow based on your risk tolerance. And for some people, real estate is not it, because they don't want all of the risk that comes with it, right? But there are other vehicles and there's other ways you can invest in real estate, either through real estate investment trusts or by mutual funds that have some allocation of investment in real estate. But there's not one answer for, like, put all of your money here, right? But it's definitely something you should educate yourself on and decide when you get to the place that you can invest, whether you want to invest in that. Okay? Any other questions?
First of all, there was a lot of thank yous, and I know you can respond to those.
Yeah.
One of them mentioned, they don't have a name, they said, I'm sure you will ask my question, but even at 2 to 3%, you're losing money. Talking about home investments. afford. So I would rather pay off the property and then invest. So the thing is, wealthier people are not necessarily happier. Yes, you need money, but you're changing an imaginary goose. You're chasing, or I guess, changing an imaginary goose when you keep wanting more. We have one life. It says, why not have a low interest loan? Because then you may not be making more, but you aren't throwing away your earned money.
Okay. You want to respond to that? Is it,
Yeah, I just was gonna say, it really goes back to the first thing you said, which are, what are your goals, right?
Right.
So does this match with, like, does her approach match your goals, or what you're saying about your goals?
Yeah.
It just depends on what your personal goals are. Once you get those established, then you will go either path, right? If it matches.
yeah, so again, in response to what Eric was saying, there was a comment on, this is the last comment. There was a comment on the chat that talks about whether you should borrow money to invest in a real estate deal at 2% or not, and what the father's advice was. At the end of the day, this is a general educational type workshop. This is not customized to your specific situation. When you're working with somebody that's giving you advice for your specific situation, they're identifying what your goals are, what your resources are, and then they're giving you advice. So I'm telling you in general, when you look at people who are investing in real estate, there's a thing called leverage, which means that you can make more money, your return is greater if you're using other people's money at a cost that is less than the return that you're getting from the investment. So that's a principle to follow. It may not be your preference, but I would tell you that I'm so appreciative of everyone spending their time here at the Empower Series. This workshop, my intention is to give you hope that whatever you envision you can achieve, to inspire you to take action. So hopefully you've written down some actions that you're going to take. You're educated, you know more now than you did before you came, and you're connected to resources via these links. I would like to get a picture of everybody here before they walk out, because I know we've been here for a long time. So I want to say goodbye to our online audience and then get a snapshot real quick before everybody has to bounce. I see you putting on your purses and stuff because it's almost 1 o'clock and we got to bounce. So here's the thing, I want to say goodbye to everybody. This is not the end, this is just the beginning. Thank you for joining us. Come back and watch this again and give me comments. If you make some comments, I'm going to respond to every one of them. Just give me some more time. So until we meet again, be empowered and inspired to thrive. Hey everybody, come on up. Let's get a